say hello to Caesar King, the limited S-rank defender from the Sons of Caledon. First things first though, a disclaimer that what you're going to be seeing here is from the creator server, so certain things are subject to change. Otherwise though, this is going to be a heavily biased video, as I love defenders, and I knew I would absolutely be pulling for Caesar the moment I saw her. Now as always, I am not your father, so I cannot tell you whether you should or shouldn't pull for Caesar, but I will be showing her off here to help you decide for yourself whether or not you should pull for her. First things first, I mean, just look at how cool she is. And I mean, you know, there's obviously, aside from her herself, look at her weapon. The sword and shield are just so cool. And look at like, you know, her other weapons. Two other big weapons that she has. But I mean, if you look at the shield, of course, it's a tire because she's a biker. Look how cool that is. And then look at that sword. It looks so cool. But it looks like that's a fishing reel on it. And then also like a gun blade almost, like it has a trigger on it. But let us still go over her skills and abilities though. First things first, let's start off with her additional ability or her team passive, which is Battle Spirit. So this states that when there is another character in your squad who can activate a defensive assist or is from the same faction. So same faction, of course, is Sons of Caledon. A defensive assist is a parry, essentially. Defensive assist is anybody that does a clash, essentially. So this is not Chuyen, this is not Grace, this is not Rena, because when you switch to them, they sort of, you know, they do the dodge away. Caesar could be paired with 18 different agents to activate this special ability. That is an insane amount of flexibility for her team passive. And that's not even going into what that team passive is. When Caesar activates a perfect block, retaliation, defensive assist, or basic attack dead end, she applies a debuff effect to enemies within a 7-meter radius, increasing the damage they take from all teammates by 25% for 30 seconds. It's not tied to a certain anomaly effect like say Jane, it's not tied to a certain element like Lycan, it's not tied to specific types of attacks like Colida, it's not tied to specifically during breaks like Qingyi, it is just they take 25% more damage. The only caveat is that you have to be close to them, but I mean, you're almost always going to be within 7 meters to the target. And reminder, she is a defender, so I guess the saying is true, the best offense is a good defense, and boy do we have a good defense here with Caesar. Moving over to her core passive though, when Caesar activates her EX special attack, a parry counter, or a chain attack, or an ultimate, or triggers an EX special attack overpowered shield bash, through retaliation, she buffs the entire team with a Radiant Aegis shield equal to 300% of her base impact plus 200. This shield lasts for a whopping 90 seconds and is equipped by the on-field character only. But this can shuffle along, so it's not stuck on one specific character. If you switch around, that shield does go and follow with them, although the value is shared among the entire team. Any single instance of damage will not exceed the shield value. What this means is that no matter how little that shield is, if you have 1 point of that shield left, no matter how big that next hit is, it will not bleed over into your HP. Effectively speaking, as long as you have any amount of this shield, you are invulnerable to damage. What's further is that while you have this shield, you also get an anti-interrupt effect. And then also their attack is increased by 40. This is of course at a base level 1, but if you upgrade it all the way up to level F, you have a 1400% multiplier on her base impact plus another 1400 shield. And what's more is the attack increase also increases up to a maximum of 1000 attack. Next up though, let's go over her skills. First up is your typical basic attack, so this is a 6 attack string. However, she does also have an enhanced basic attack called basic attack dead end, and this does not use a specific bar like Qingyi and Seth do, but instead this uses your assist points. So when holding the basic attack button, it will consume one of your assist points to throw out your shield like a little boomerang to attack all nearby enemies in all directions. Caesar is of course invulnerable during this. Now remember, this enhanced basic attack is one of the ways to trigger the team passive, which increases damage taken by 25% by all enemies around you. Next up is her EX skill. Now at first it does look like a lot to go over, but essentially the skill has 2 parts, both for the regular and the EX version. The main difference is that the EX skill gives you invulnerability, but as you'll see, this will not be too much of an issue. The first time you press the skill button, you do an initial shield bash. If you are attacked during the startup of this attack, EX or regular, you will trigger a parry, causing you to take no damage whatsoever from the attack. If you do not get attacked during the startup, you will go into a guard stance for a few seconds. In either scenario, you can then press the skill button again to do a follow-up attack. Now, if you either do a perfect parry on that first skill, or if you get hit in the guard stance before activating that second attack, the next time you press the skill button, you will do a retaliation attack. This is another way you can trigger that team passive that debuffs the enemies around you. And also, if either the first or second activation of this skill is an EX version, it'll also grant you Caesar's shield from her core skill. Now, if you mistimed the first skill activation and didn't get a parry, you can try to instead time the follow-up skill, which can also trigger a parry if you are attacked during the startup of that animation. In fact, if the follow-up skill is an EX version and you trigger a parry, the energy cost will be refunded. However, you can only trigger a parry on the first or the second, so that's why I said it is only if you mistime the first skill activation and you miss that parry. You cannot get a parry on the first skill and also the follow-up skill. You'll see in the next few skills though that there are other ways to get to this follow-up retaliation attack though. Also, even more than that though, there's even more. When Caesar does trigger a perfect block or a defensive assist, so that is the regular switch and parry, or retaliation, which is the follow-up after a perfect block, her impact is then going to be increased as well. At skill level 1 it is at 9%, but this will increase as you level up this EX special skill. For Caesar's dash attack, this is for the most part the same as you would expect. You have a dash, you have a dodge counter, but when you do a basic attack during a dash, this cannot trigger a parry by itself. However, it does give you some damage reduction, and if you are attacked after this, you sort of get knocked back similar to the defensive stance, and then from here, you can press the skill button to do that follow-up attack as a retaliation. Likewise, for Caesar's defensive assist, after she switches in and does her attack, you can instantly press the skill button without needing to be attacked, and you will do a follow-up retaliation attack. Again, both of these retaliations will trigger the damage debuff on the enemies around you, and if you had enough energy for an EX version of the skill, you will also get the shield as well. Last but not least, we have her chain attack and her ultimate. Thankfully, these are very simple. The chain attack is of course a regular chain attack, but as for the ultimate, the special thing is that if Caesar hits a shielded enemy, the amount of days dealt is increased by 45%. This days increase scales as the skill level increases as well, so it starts at 45, but it will also increase. Caesar's signature Wenjin is the Tusks of Fury. Of course, as its base stat, it provides attack, and as for the advanced stat, it provides an impact percentage increase. This is unique because no other Wenjin so far for the defenders provides an impact increase. And it makes sense because Caesar has definitely been scaling off of impact. But as for the special effect that Tusks of Fury gives her, boy oh boy, if you thought her base kit alone was strong, wait till you see this. The effect is the Invincible Rider. So firstly, any shield provided by Caesar just straight up gets increased by 30%. But then, when any squad member triggers an interrupt or a perfect dodge, all squad members' damage increases by 18% and their days dealt increases by 12% for 20 seconds. I don't know if you could tell, but this is very good. Not just for Caesar, but honestly for any defense unit here. Ben can use this, Seth can use this because of the fact that any squad member can trigger this effect. It's kind of like the equivalent of how you can throw swing jazz on anybody just to have the extra damage there. Speaking of swing jazz though, let us move on to the drive disc, because boy oh boy, the Caesar power does not stop here with the Wenjins, it carries on in the drive discs. Of course, we've been talking this entire time about how much Caesar loves impact, so going for a Shockstar Disco is a no-brainer here, specifically a 2-piece set to give her an extra 6% impact. Now, as for her 4-piece set, I think this is going to be a no-brainer that it is going to be the new Proto-Punk disc set. It is quite literally made for her. The 2-piece set effect increases all shield effects by 15%, so again, flashbacks to her signature Wenjin, and then the 4-piece set effect, also very similar to her signature Wenjin, which we said was pretty good already. When any squad member triggers a defensive assist or evasive assist, so this is not a dodge counter like the Wenjin, but this is essentially whenever you switch a character in, as they are about to be attacked, all squad members deal 15% increased damage, and this lasts 10 whole seconds. This is quite literally a better Swing Jazz. Swing Jazz is also a 15% damage increase lasting 12 seconds, but that requires you to either use a chain attack, which essentially requires you to stun the enemy, or it requires an ultimate, which you can't really do that often. Meanwhile, a defensive or evasive assist, you can trigger that so much more often. As for the main stats, naturally speaking, of course, you would go for an impact on slot 6, with a physical damage on slot 5, and then very likely an attack percent on slot number 4. Now, I will say, depending on your team, if you feel like you're stunning fast enough already and you don't need that extra impact, you could switch out the 2 Shockstar Discos for a 2-piece Fanged Metal to increase Caesar's physical damage dealt. Now, as for teams, honestly, like I said, she has so many different options she can work with damn near anybody. I honestly cannot think of a single team composition that would not want Caesar. Everybody can benefit from 1,000 attack points, everyone can benefit from a shield that gives them anti-interrupt, everyone can benefit from enemies taking more damage of course, and everyone can benefit from enemies getting stunned faster. I will say, of course, one team that does stick out is none other than the Sons of Caledon team. Caesar, Piper, and Lucy. 1, it's very nice because it is, very thematic, all 3 Sons of Caledon. 2, Piper and Lucy are both A ranks, so they should be easily acquirable. And 3, of course, the team synergy is great, right? Hyper can really benefit from that anti-interrupt shield, so you can spin without having to worry about getting knocked out of that. You have 2 attack buffs in the form of Lucy and Caesar, and with Caesar buffing the attack even further, Lucy's boars can do even more damage as well. Now, I don't know how many of you will be going for Caesar's Mindscapes, but for those of you who will be going for it, here are what they are. Cinema Mindscape 1 allows the Radiant Aegis shield to be triggered very easily simply by switching in, although this can only be done once every 5 minutes. So essentially what this means is that you can get this off right at the start of a battle without having to worry about getting the energy needed for an EX skill. What's more though is that enemies are further debuffed by having the 15% attribute damage resistance increased, so essentially 15% more damage. Cinema Mindscape 2, however, is that while the Radiant Shield is active, Caesar also gets an energy regen increase of 10%, and then also the Shield Bearer's attack boost is increased to 150%. So it could go from a 1000 attack point boost to a 1500 attack point boost. Cinema Mindscape 3 is of course an increase to your skill levels. Cinema Mindscape 4 is that whenever Caesar uses a chain attack or an ultimate, she gains those 3 additional assist points. This is similar to what Ben has on his ultimate, but notably though, this isn't just the ultimate, this is from a chain attack as well. So a simple chain attack generating 4 assist points instead of just 1 is pretty big. But that's not all though. If her energy is below 20%, so in other words, she doesn't have enough energy to do the follow-up EX special attack after a parry, you can instead use an assist point instead. Cinema 5 is of course again another increase to the skill levels, and Cinema Mindscape 6 is a big one. The second part of the EX skill, so the follow-up after the parry, as well as the regular assist follow-up attack, is guaranteed to trigger a critical hit. I think this is a very big theme going on with all of the defenders, getting guaranteed crits on their attacks. But not only is this one attack guaranteed to crit, but after that though, Caesar's crit and crit damage for all attacks is then increased for 15 seconds, turning her into a pseudo DPS unit essentially. So with all of that being said, should you pull for Caesar King? Well, I don't know. That's, again, up to you to decide. If you liked what you saw, then sure, go for it. But remember that there is also, of course, Bernice coming out in the same patch, 1.2. So if you're on the fence about which to choose, maybe wait a bit to see if more information is going to be released about Bernice, and then you can decide on who you want later on. Again, me personally, I am definitely going to pull for her because, I mean, I like how she looks, I like her gameplay, I really like the whole parry mechanics. But of course, that is not for everyone. You know what, why not let me know down in the comments below if you are going to be pulling for Caesar or not. Otherwise though, thank you all for watching. If you did find this video helpful, as always, liking, commenting, and subscribing is greatly appreciated. Otherwise, until next time, bye bye.